So joining me today on GYS is Justin Walsh, Head of Sports Performance at Dubai College, and we're here to chat about a new way to communicate and collaborate for sports tactics, and it's called Coach Logic. And can you tell me a little bit about why Dubai College has decided to sign on with Coach Logic and use the technology?
Yeah, so we were looking to just increase our sports capacity really. So part of my role is to look at analytics and give our coaches some more feedback on the games that we play. Unfortunately, this year we haven't played many of those, but we're using it across our four main sports at the moment, which is football, rugby, netball, and basketball. So we're using it across all four sports. I've got like an overview, umbrella view of all the sports, and then each of the individual coaches has a look at their own sort of private areas. And then all the students then linked into that as well. So there's a bit of a cascade effect going down through the different sort of levels.
Yeah, and I guess like you mentioned, you probably haven't had too much of a chance to use it so far. Have you had any opportunities to try it out a little bit, or is it just about learning how it works at the moment?
At the moment, it's been mainly a learning curve. So figuring out how to use it to sort of as efficiently as possible. We've videoed a few sort of drill sessions that we've run, but obviously that's also quite difficult to do with the competitive. We're not allowed any competitive situations at school, so it's been just filming random parts of our training sessions, which is simulated gameplay, and then trying to then fit the categories as well that we want as the different coaches. So some coaches wanted to look at certain sort of parts of the game, and then other coaches didn't want to look at that. So then trying to personalize each sport to each coach so they can get the most out of it.
And given that it probably adds another element that coaches can use now, or this video technology to analyze games and teach students, do you think it'll help coaches improve, the way they speak to their athletes?
Yeah, I think it'll give them a bit of it's always a different perspective on what the coaches see. So seeing it twice, seeing it three times, and then to be able to break down individual movements or patterns gives them more information. So they can probably take their time with it rather than just seeing it once on the pitch and being like, do you remember what happened at this phase play? Most of the time, students probably won't remember that anyway. So being able to get the students involved as well with the analytic process is also really good. So they can actually provide their own feedback, and then as coaches, you can just sort of direct them in the right way. So it becomes a very sort of student-heavy process as well, which is what we want.
Yeah, and I guess it does give you kind of that forum where you can collaborate as a team and make comments on elements of the gameplay. And is that kind of a way that maybe sports analysis will go in the future as it gets a little bit more technologically advanced?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure how basic or advanced this program is compared to some of the other ones. I know a few schools in the UK are using the same program. So I think what we're trying to do is create a very sort of student teaching environment. So what we want to try and do is break down the video so that every student has an input into the analysis process. So it's sort of learn by doing, and then they can break it all up by themselves. And then obviously the more the students watch their own gameplay and see more footage and see the mistakes that they make, hopefully it'd be sort of a fairly easy way for them to learn about themselves as well as the game in general.
Yeah. And you're obviously using it across quite a few sports. Does it operate kind of the same against with all those sports, or is it a little bit different and tailored to each of those?
Yeah, so it's the same sort of general process, but what we have for each individual sport is a different tag. So, for example, in rugby, we want to look at sort of set play pieces, whereas in basketball, we might look at sort of fouls and intercept passes and sort of good parts of defense. So that's what we're trying to do at the moment, is just tailor it so that each coach has exactly what they want to look at. And then, I mean, we originally wrote down sort of all the list of like 10 or 15 different things we wanted to review at for rugby. And then in hindsight, that was way too many. So we ended up with sort of over 20, 30 tags sort of per 10 minutes, which is just too much information. So we've been trying to then figure out the optimal amount of tags to have versus information we get. So it's supposed to make our life easier, not sort of harder. So yeah, we're finding that balance now.
And I guess what's the main aim you want to get out of Coach Logic? Is it more, titles and championships, or also just more athlete development as well?
Hopefully they'll go hand in hand. So as the students develop more and they get better and they can get a better understanding of the game, that'll help us sort of with winning a few more trophies and cups here and there. So yeah, it'll definitely go hand in hand, hopefully. But then also just to prepare them for hopefully some of our students go on to be in professional environments and get used to that feedback loop. So I know when I was a student, we never had this opportunity. And then when you kind of climb the different levels, you kind of go into your first meeting with a coach and they sit down and be like, what were you thinking at this point in play? You're sort of very under pressure. So we can expose students to that at an early age and get them used to that. They can have that sort of open conversation with coaches much more easily further down the line.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Justin, for having a chat about Coach Logic. Appreciate it. And we hope you have a time that you can actually use it coming up soon.
Yeah, me too. So fingers crossed we can sort of hopefully potentially in the new year get some games in and use it to its full potential.